What if I told you all the fact-checking in the world will not stop extremism on the internet? That's because the internet is not the source of the United States political extremism problem. It is one of its fastest vehicles, though, and that is worth understanding. I've worked as a journalist examining how extremism and the internet work together for most of my career. I spent the first half of those years desperate to convince people that what I was witnessing was important. I spent the second half almost wishing I hadn't been so right about that. My work takes me to the dark corners online where extremism thrives. I sort through ideas that have inspired mass shootings like white people are being deliberately removed from the earth, conspiracy theories that have produced unspeakable evils like Jews want to control world governments and want to enact evil agendas, and one that bore its head on January 6, 2021. Maybe violence is a potential solution to our political problems. To most of us, all of that sounds utterly ridiculous, if not deeply worrisome. I mean, can you imagine someone saying something like that over family dinner? How do ideas so detached from reality manage to draw in so many people? While extremist ideologies are a fringe, they're not as obscure today as we may be tempted to hope. The ideas rest on myths built on fear and lies. Pushing back on the substance is important, but there are other factors that have helped extremism's recent rise. I want to explain the less obvious ways the internet has contributed to that problem. The rise of online communication brought with it convenience. Today, we enjoy the nearly instant exchange of information all around the world. It has weakened many social hierarchies and cultural barriers for the better, empowering generations of artists, entertainers, activists, and thinkers to flourish outside the boundaries of traditional success. In many ways, those kind of changes have been positive, but we've seen darker social forces trying to collect those wins too. In the wrong hands, the same features that have helped open our societies can be bugs in the system. With the internet, extremist movements can access larger audiences with less effort. They can cross-pollinate their ideologies more efficiently and radicalize audiences faster. No longer do they have to hope for media coverage or seek out events to recruit at. They can do all the work on a screen. With enough care, they can be anonymous. And they can achieve impacts that would make the extremists of decades past faint with glee. Here's what's making that possible. The internet today is home to what I call parallel media ecosystems. In these pockets, hyperpartisan and sensationalist media can isolate audiences almost entirely from real reporting, solid sourcing, measured opinions. Those things are replaced with outrage, fear, and lies. These ecosystems are parallel in that they operate alongside the news that most people follow. Very seldom do the lanes cross over, and from the outside looking in, it can resemble a hall of mirrors in a funhouse. But if someone consumes enough in that warped perspective, the outside world can start to look distorted instead. This is crucial to understand. It's why all the fact-checking in the world won't save us here. Extremist beliefs need constant fuel to stay alive. The belief has to be maintained. Social media has helped keep the fire churning. Platforms are designed to keep us on them, interacting and creating data that companies then sell. So when someone falls into one of those parallel tracks and starts consuming a lot, software is made to try to keep them there. Clicking, watching, sharing, commenting. Outrage has proven to be very good at that, as has fear. In that way, the design of the internet is helping the radicalization process. Influencers and media in these ecosystems constantly agitate and affirm their audiences. Some of them make very good money and obtain lots of influence doing this. The world be damned because you have discovered the unpopular truth, they say. It is not enough to feed the audience's lies. Influencers in these spaces speak in apocalyptic terms. they're constantly stirring the pot. There is often a strong sense of community in online extremist environments. We've all probably experienced a form of this. If you follow a musical artist online, you'll find some shared values, in-group jokes, some slang or catchphrases. It's a special way of talking to each other. Extremist environments are like this too, which adds to the appeal and cohesion of them. Extremist beliefs can often isolate people from family and friends. It can be very lonely to believe wild things. But believers can replace that feeling of care and attention online. For those people, a sense of belonging can be replaced with just a few clicks. In this world, they aren't wacky. Instead, they're awake. I've spoken to a lot of people caught up in extremism throughout the years. Most of them have told me they feel disenfranchised in some way. Sometimes what they feel is valid, sometimes it's not. In the absence of clear and satisfying answers about why they feel that way, whether from themselves or broader society, they become ripe targets for exploitation. Extremists play to these insecurities and fears, encouraging their audiences towards cynicism and resentment. And finally, these movements try hard to get their people offline and into real-world spaces. This reinforces that community and belonging, and it gives purpose to believers. It doesn't feel so tedious or meaningless. It's not just online stuff. It becomes real. We are not merely talking about misinformation here. No amount of debunking is going to change those 6 dynamics. We are talking about dangerous social movements using the internet to thrive. And because they are social movements, they're fluid. They can adapt and morph to any container that they face. Okay, so what are the lessons here for the rest of us? Those of us who don't want to see this stuff thrive? Though extremist movements have made recent gains, they still represent minority opinions. I don't think we should be letting them take up so much space. We can't be complacent in a state of constant reaction and argument. Instead, we must lead with moral clarity and promote productive conversations, especially when we disagree. That doesn't mean compromising values. It means learning how to convey those values in uniting ways, not divisive ones. The antidote to cynicism and resentment is a positive vision of hope and promise. And crucially, the delivery of that vision into reality. That's one answer for us, collectively. We must also confront the faults of the internet that have empowered extremism. I love the internet, but the business of surveillance capitalism, harvesting and selling as much of our information as possible, is enabling tremendous threats to public safety and our democracy. An internet built on that is foundationally opposed to comprehensive solutions to this problem. After all, those solutions don't make any money. We have to allow ourselves to imagine what the internet could be, rather than obsess over the tweaking and adjusting of a status quo that is failing us completely. Ideally, this change would be collaborative between government and business. If it can't happen that way, regulation may be necessary. On Capitol Hill, not too far from today's stage, conversations are happening about the way forward with tech. There are many skeptics, but take this from a journalist. Regulating social media is not the doomsday some might pretend it is. But any regulation has to be done wisely while considering the negative effects, particularly on smaller platforms. I want to answer 2 questions I get a lot. If we remove extremist content from social media, does it make it harder for people like me to track them? The answer to that is a resounding no. I would rather these movements live in the shadows than parade out in the open. And don't worry about me. I'm a professional. I assure you, I will find these folks. The other is a First Amendment argument. Does banning bad actors from social media encroach on their free speech? I would also argue no. The First Amendment protects speech. What it doesn't do is entitle somebody to an audience. Social media platforms do not owe anybody an account. The path ahead of us requires clear vision. Those of us who value fairness, equality, and democracy, we are in the majority. Let's act like it. Let's take up some space. Let's demand more from tech companies. I want an internet that empowers people, one that values more than just engagement metrics, an internet that allows us to advance our commitments to justice and inclusion, one that places fairness and safety at the forefront of its design. A better internet like that is possible, but it's not inevitable. So let's go get it.